Welcome back, everybody, to another episode with the Truth in Trucking team. You got George Mendoza here with HCM Integrity Services, and you got my partner in crime here,
Harold with Untouchable Insurance.
All right. So, guys, we got an exciting, well, they're always exciting podcasts here. And this time we are going to start this podcast with the the rating that carriers have in the FMCSA or Safer Sys. This has been a topic, if you're on social media platforms and if a carrier has a rating or no rating or not rated or conditional or, and a lot of people are trying to, kind of misinform people and kind of steer you in the wrong direction and whether or not a carrier is good or not because they have a safety rating or not. So we're going to break that down for you, especially on my side being a compliance company, and we have done numerous safety audits. And I'm not talking about the new entrant safety audit, which anyone should be able to pass that without any problems. But we're talking about the safety investigations. These are investigations that come when the DOT and the FMCSA or the FMCSA will come and do a safety investigation on your entire operation. And those are usually triggered because there has been multiple accidents within a year or two. And there also has been multiple violations, especially hours of service violations. When they see repetitive violations done, they will give you a warning letter. And if you keep getting violations, or if you get a second accident, I think it's an automatic where they will come and do a safety investigation. And after that safety investigation, will determine on what type of rating you will get and if you will be put out of service. There are other few things we'll talk about today, how AI is affecting some of the industry, what's being used, what platforms are using it, why AI is good and bad. We'll also talk with Harold about the reports that insurance companies are using. There is one called CAP, kind of like it's like the credit bureaus out there that check people. The CAB is checking what
the CAB just about has all the information about the carrier. It will tell me who's been inspected, what trucks have been inspected, what they were violated for, and those things all affect your insurance. The other thing that affects your insurance, we get what they call an ISS code, and that ISS code rating is part of that. A lot of times people don't understand how that works or interacts with you. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about what they call insufficient data rating, which is another thing that affects you when you're getting your insurance. And I'll explain to you how those things affects your insurance.
Yep. And so we're talking about the Safer Sys and the data that's on there, and the platforms that mainly brokers are using to onboard carriers to check them out, the data that they're getting, and the ways that they're checking to make sure that carriers are good carriers and to raise up any flags. So we'll talk about some of those platforms. We're not going to name these platforms, but I'm pretty sure if you've been in the industry, not even that long, maybe a couple months, you already know I have come across these platforms and probably have given you issues getting set up. So we'll talk about that and how they're getting their data, how they are can help, and how they can affect carriers from getting set up who would get set up with no problem, but because of the data they're getting, they're having these issues. Carriers are getting issues to get set up. We'll also talk about these anti-fraud software. It looks like everybody these days has a anti-fraud platform now. Everybody's saying that they're better than these guys and this and that. And some of these platforms the idea is good, the intentions are good, but sometimes some of the things that they're doing, somewhat is shooting themselves in the foot and even making it harder for smaller carriers. We'll talk about requesting an upgrade after you've received a safety investigation and it's been unsatisfactory or conditional. We can talk. We'll get into that a little bit, and I also wanted to talk about a lot of people bash the FMCSA, and I can tell you there are some things that I can agree with many of you that are ridiculous that the FMCSA does, some of the regulations, but I wanted to just kind of let people know out there that they are and they have implemented new identity verification things. They are requiring identity verification when anyone's getting a new DOT number, and it is a lot harder for anyone out there who's trying to do a scam or do some type of fraud. Is not as easy as it used to be. So I wanted to let everyone know that the FMCSA has implemented things. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's a lot better than what it was. And so it's very hard for the bad guys to get in and do things, and I'll explain why. So that's what we're going to be talking about this podcast. So we'll start breaking it down. Harold, is there something else you wanted to bring up?
No, we'll start with the ratings, the safety ratings. One thing that you want to keep in mind, safety rating's nice. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change your insurance rating. It could, depending on how long it's been active, those kind of things. If you have a conditional rating, it will affect your rates. If you have a non-rating, doesn't mean you're a bad company or a bad driver or anything like that. It's just that you've never gotten a safety inspection, and we're going to let George discuss what's going to take to get that safety rating, and so you understand how to get that safety rating if it comes up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of there's just some misconception out there where I've come across on some of these social media platforms where you have some people saying that, hey, check your carrier. They're not a good carrier if they don't have a safety rating or if they have no rating. And that's just not true. And those type of things you need to stop. Now, I'm not saying that those carriers are great or they're the best carriers out there. There's some out there that we know will have issues, and it's hard to tell if they don't have any rating. But I'm going to break it down to you. Now, if you go on Google or you talk to some of the people out there, they're going to tell you there's only 3 ratings. There's the satisfactory, conditional, and unsatisfactory. Although there is another one that's called either no rating, not rated, unrated, and those necessarily don't mean that the carrier is bad. And I'll tell you why. In order for most of the time when a carrier gets gets the results that say that they are not rated or unrated, usually that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, because in order for them to get that, that means that an FMCSA investigator went to that carrier and
let me interject. Just listen to what George is saying. You have to have that safety investigation done in order to get that rating.
Right. So, and if anyone out there, please, if you think I'm wrong, or please comments, put them down below. Let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Send me links. Send me information where you can debate me there and say, hey, that's not right. This is how it is. I'm telling you based on my experience with my company working with safety investigators, and this is what happens. Okay. So if they have a non-rating and they have a date that says when they were investigated, which usually you'll see that on Safe Assist or the FMCSA, and it'll say rating, not rated, or unrating. Now, in order for them to even get that, keep in mind, a safety investigator had to do an investigation. Okay. And that's a good thing, because the misconception out there is that they have not been investigated, that these carriers are not rated because they're not, they haven't undergone a safety evaluation or something. And that's just not true. these investigators will come and they'll investigate. Now, if they didn't if the result wasn't a satisfactory rating, then that means that there were things that they found. And keep in mind, to even get a safety investigation, they had to have already seen violations or repeated violations or accidents on your safety for them to even come. So let's just make that clear. For them to even come and do an investigation, that's usually the case, that it's going to be something that they found already. And that's why they're coming, knocking on the door, and they want to do an investigation. So they'll do the investigation.
George, why don't you tell them what they're kind of looking for when they're doing that investigation so they can get that safety rating?
Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're only going to ask you about what is on record. So whatever violations you had, which you should know. And if you don't know, then you may need to consider getting a compliance company like HCM Integrity, that they can keep you in the loop when you have safety violations and things like that. But anyway, the investigator is going to come, and that's what they're going to start asking you questions about those violations that you received. And what do? They're going to start asking you for the driver qualification file. So if a driver was stopped and given a violation, they're going to ask for their information. They're going to ask for the truck information, and they're going to ask for all the paperwork to make sure that that truck is compliant. For example, a DOT annual inspection, make sure they have that. Any maintenance records, any maintenance files that you should have, any repairs that were done in that truck. You need to keep records of all that stuff. There is even a form that they need, or they want you to have, or you should be filling out. And a lot of guys don't have those forms. We have those forms. If you like to get those forms, we'll give it to you absolutely free. Just like and subscribe, leave a comment down, or we'll leave you an email address where you can contact us and request those forms. But there's forms that you need. One of those forms will be the maintenance like log sheet. And so you need to provide that for the truck. For the driver, you need to have your driver qualification files. We're not going to get into that this podcast, as we already have a podcast where we spoke about that. But you need to have their DQ files and all their records in there. So they're going to ask for that. They're going to ask for any accident history. If your driver was involved in an accident, they're going to want to see the drug testing. They're going to want to see the post-drug testing. If they were unable to get a post-drug testing, then you need to have a document of and stating as to why they were unable to do those post-drug tests. And keep in mind, after an accident, not every driver is going to need to have a post-accident drug and alcohol test, but depending on what happened in that accident, if there was a tow, somebody was injured, things like that, you need to get that post-accident. And you only have 8 hours to get the alcohol, and I believe it's 32 hours for the drugs, for the drug alcohol. If you can't get the driver within that time, you need to stop all your efforts and document it. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I do want to document. Sometimes when you're on a scene, it might take 8 hours to clear that scene. So if that state trooper or whoever's investigating that exceeds that, you want to make sure you get documentation from him to make sure that you were tied up at a facility. And if it took you 3 hours to get there and you weren't going to make it in that period, that's the part you have to document. If you don't document it, you're just cutting your own goose.
That's right. They will ask for that. And look, a lot of times, guys, when there's accident, depending on where the accident is, you could be in the middle of nowhere in the United States. There's probably nowhere near, no hotel nearby, no clinic to go take a drug test. That happens, but you need to document that. So that's very important. That's one of the things they're going to ask for if there was an accident. And that should be in your driver qualification file. The other thing is they're going to want to see your random program. They want to see, they're going to want the report from the random program to see all the drivers that were pulled, all the results. They're going to want to see that. They're going to want to see your policies. That's another thing that we run into. A lot of companies don't even know that they need to have a seatbelt policy. They need to have an incentive program. They need to have a driver handbook. They need to have policies of different things that you need to have for your trucking operation and for the driver. Disciplinary action forms. If the driver gets stopped, what is your policy when they have an hour of service violation? What are you doing with the driver when he gets one? Are you sitting down with him? Are you writing him up? You need to have all those documentations. You need to have what the disciplinary action is after so many violations, or which violations are not tolerated and can terminate the driver. You need to have all those documents. They're going to ask for that. Now,
And the other thing is too, even if you're a one-man show or a two-man show, you still need those requirements as well too. It doesn't make a difference if you're 1 or 100. You have to have that driver file, you have all your medical reports in there, and those are the things that you need to do. We can get into a lot more into that. I mean, that's a whole nother subject altogether. I know we talked about it in the past. Look at some of the other podcasts, but you want to make sure that you even have if you're a one guy show, you want to have that file for yourself. And they're going to ask you for it.
that's right. And so it's very important you have that. If you need help with that, contact HCM Integrity Service. We'll be more than happy to help you, consult you on what you need to have. We can even set up a program where we have all that covered for you. So when an audit does or an investigation does come, you have everything already ready to go, and you have no issues in supplying that information. So that's a very important thing, and that's one of the things that you need to know out there, especially those of you who are in these anti-fraud software companies or platforms and all these things. Stop thinking and stop telling people because the carrier is not rated that they're not good and that they should be rated, or the FMCSA is not doing their job. That's just incorrect. Most of the time, if there's a date and it says not rating, it's because the safety investigator has sat down, has looked at everything they have. They did find issues, but they also found that the carrier was doing what he needs to do to either correct those violations and has everything in place to avoid getting more of those violations. So keep that in mind. That actually, when I was doing brokerage and I saw that somebody had a non-rating, but they were investigated, that was a good thing, because that let me know the investigator sat down with them, went through everything, and determined that they are not unsatisfactory, that they do not get a conditional because they have enough things going on that will establish that they are practicing good safety habits and have things in place to continue or correct the violations or the things that they found at that time. So it's not a bad thing. Now, conditional, not so great. Conditional is worse than getting a non-rated. Why? Well, you know why. If you're a broker, you are not using that carrier. If he's got a conditional rating, you're not using him. Why is that bad? Because the investigator determined they did not have enough things in place to either avoid or correct the issues that they're having. They gave him a conditional. They didn't put him on unsatisfactory, because unsatisfactory is an automatic out of service. So they gave him a conditional, which means that they have the opportunity to request an upgrade to either non-rated or satisfactory. And in order to get that, they need to show and establish that they have those things in place or have corrected those deficiencies, so they can get that upgrade and get it approved. We can help you that. We do all that. We've done many of them, and we've been very successful in requesting the upgrade. So keep that in mind. Let us know if you need any help with that. One more thing before, I know you want to say something, Harold. Unsatisfactory. You get an unsatisfactory, forget about it. You're going to be placed out of service. You probably most likely not going to use that carrier if you're a broker. But for you carriers who do get that, no need to worry. Companies like ours can help you get back on, help you get that upgraded, help you avoid getting put out of service. We've done those before, and again, we've been successful. So contact us if you're in those shoes. If you're a broker and you have a relationship with a carrier and you think they're good people, they just didn't have the right team or the right compliance, give them our information. Let us help them. We do it all the time. Not everyone is out there doing bad things. A lot of people are just not properly informed and don't have the right team next to them to help them make the right decisions and help them stay on course. You'll be surprised how many just don't know. And unfortunately, the DOT and FMCSA, ignorance is not an excuse.
Exactly. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. So the other thing is, too, just so you know, conditional ratings, you can get insured, but you're going to pay more money. I just had a gentleman the other day, and he got another $4,000 increase, just his insurance alone, because he has a conditional rating. The sad thing is he's had that conditional rating for the last 3 years that I've been servicing him. He just hasn't taken the time to do it. I've tried to help him do it, but he's made that decision, that's on him. So that's another $12,000 he's paid out in the long run because of that. These things need to be addressed. You want them addressed. If you don't have someone that you're constantly or got a real good rapport with, especially with a broker, a load broker that you're dealing with, he's not going to use you with a conditional rating. So you just want to make sure you do that. A conditional rating is just no good for you.
Yeah, and definitely not. And we can help you get those upgraded. Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of carriers out there who have run years with a conditional rating. I've come across some that just years with a conditional rating.
And that's like the one I was just telling you about. He's been running at least 10 years with a conditional rating.
Yeah. There are many like that. And they continue running because they have,
their niche.
They have an niche, they have contracts, they have a good connections that they still work with them. Most of the time, they're probably not even brokers. They're just the shipper or manufacturers who have a relationship with them directly. And they don't mind that they have a conditional rating, and just the way it is. But, we need to, we need to get this information out there because some of those trucking companies who have conditional ratings, they think that there's nothing they can do. And that's not true. We can help them get that upgraded. It could be difficult because there's things they need to get in place if they don't have it in place, but it is possible, and we've done it many times. What else did we want to get into? The AI, how AI, a lot of these platforms, a lot of these new platforms now, onboarding things, they're using AI. And listen, I have an IT background too. I love AI. I think AI is great, but I also, because I have an IT background and I'm familiar with some things that AI does, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not 100%. A lot of these companies, these onboarding guys, they're using it. They're using AI to get information from the internet. I mean, come on, do a Google search on something and you're going to see that AI is going to give you results based on different websites or people that they think are, reputable companies or have the right information. And a lot of the times, and they'll even tell you, if you look on the bottom, now a lot of that information is not 100%. You should always check the information. So with that said, AI is only getting the information that it's either given or that it's pulling from the internet. And not all the time that information is great. So with that said, these platforms that are using, that people are using, brokers are using to onboard carriers that are using AI, a lot of the times, some carriers, unfortunately, are not getting set up. Brokers are losing relationships. They're losing loads. Carriers are losing loads because some of these companies, they just rely on whatever they get back from their platform, whatever their AI tells them. There's no human element behind it that does further research or even tries to help some of these carriers, because a lot of the times that data is old, incorrect, needs to be updated.
And I'd like to add a little bit to that. So a lot of times we use we use a system called Central Analysis Bureau, which we call it short for CAB. That CAB, they're one of the few companies that actually update their information on a constant basis. Now, one of the things that's happening with some of these other companies, and we're not going to mention them because we don't want to have them on our back door, right? But they don't update as often. And the reason why is because it costs money every time to go to the FMCSA and download that information. So I don't know when they're updating. They could be updating every 6 months. They could be updating every quarter. If they're doing that, that means it's showing old information that maybe the FMCSA has updated already. And the thing is that you have to do is you have to bring that to their attention that you've had this situation corrected. And sometimes I know how it is. I've tried to talk to them themselves for a couple of clients. You can almost not impossible talk to anybody. It makes it very difficult to do it. So that's another thing. So if you have someone that's told you that, hey, you got this on your DOT and you really don't have it on the DOT, then you have to prove to them that it's not on there because they're thinking that it's gospel. You got to remember, everybody's human here. So they're reading the screen on you and they're sitting there looking at, oh, this is this. They don't know how to go any farther past that screen that they're looking at. You either contact George. George can help you with it. You can contact me if I can look it up and see it. But my information is updated at least on a monthly basis. And in some cases, it's even done on a weekly basis. And depending on what it is, if it's filings, those are done on a daily basis. So that information is important to you because that's what you need to operate.
Yep. So I just wanted to go back to the rating system because if you go to the FMCSA, if you go to the DOT, they have verbiage that says a unrated or not rated means that there has not been a DOT compliance review. And I'm telling you, that is not true. We do them all the time. A lot of these investigations, after they get investigated, are given a unrated or not rated rating, and you would know that by the date that's on there. If you have doubts of that, look it up, talk to a FMCSA investigator, and they will tell you. Give us a contact, okay? Call us. We'll let you know if that carrier, if indeed was investigated and got that rating. And again, if they got it, it's because they were investigating, okay? There's a lot of verbiage out here, and I just did a Google search, and it's saying right here that a unrated and not rated means the same thing, and it means that there has not been a DOT compliance review conducted, and that's just not true, okay? A lot of the times they were, and there's a way to find out if they were or were not. But still, always have caution. Yeah, you should have some caution, but we need to kind of clarify that that's just not 100% accurate. I think we kind of covered that. Well, the FMCSA, I think we touched a little bit briefly, but they have done and implemented identity verification. Now you have to provide a driver, the owner of the company or a member or officer or company official has to supply their license or ID through the FMCSA portal. They need to get approved before they can even get the DOT number or MC number. So they have implemented that. It is happening. That's going to deter a lot of people from doing fraud. A lot of people from other countries trying to get authorities to do fraudulent things. It's going to make it almost impossible. Now, knowing criminals, they're going to find a way. There's always a way. They can use somebody they know, whatever, they're going to find a way. But right now, that is a very good deterrent of avoiding people from doing fraud. Not only that, is before they were committing fraud by getting the DOT PIN numbers and logging into the carrier's account, changing things around, getting changing the email, phone number, doing all kind of stuff. There has been things implemented as well where that's almost just as impossible to do. But that's why it's very important. If you're a carrier out there, do not give anyone your US DOT PIN number, because with that PIN number, they are able to get in and try to get into your account and change things around. And that's the reason why a lot of these onboarding platforms or anti-fraud platforms put up a flag when they see that an email was recently changed or a phone number was recently changed, because that's usually a telltale sign that somebody's trying to commit fraud or pretend that they're the carrier so they can get a load and steal the load or whatever the case may be. Again, that doesn't mean that somebody is committing fraud, because we do updates and changes for a lot of our clients who happen to move, who change their office address, change their physical address, they change their phone number, they get a local number, and they want to get now 800 number, or they go from an 800 number to a local number. Those things happen all the time. Does not mean there has been any fraud. That's why it's important to train your agents correctly and have them, get in there and really check and try to help these carriers out that say and contest the information that you're seeing. Because what's happening now is with the AI and all these platforms, a lot of these kids, a lot of these guys, they just go by what it says and that's it. They don't want to help. They don't want to get involved. They don't, hey, the AI or the platform is telling me that, you're flagged for fraud, or you've changed a number and now you got to wait 30 days, which is another absurd thing that some platforms I heard were doing. You know, like, hey, I changed my number. People can change their number all the time. Not a big deal.
And you're supposed to change your number because you're required by the FMCSA to have a point of contact for everything for whoever is the owner of that company. So you have to have that. It's not like you can go, oh, I'm just going to leave it there. I see a lot of times guys don't have the right email on there. I see sometimes they use a compliance company's phone number, which that compliance company never answers the phone for that client. So you have to be in contact. Like George said earlier, ignorance to the law is not an acceptable reason. You have to have a place to be able to be contacted. And that goes into the other requirements that you have to do when you're setting up a DOT, because you have to have someone that actually can receive your mail for you. You have to have someone that can work on your behalf to receive documents. So you have to have that. Those are requirements. And a lot of guys overlook it. And this is what they're getting caught on. They're getting caught on little stuff like this. And that's a big issue.
That's right. So I think we're gonna wrap up this this episode here. And if you have any questions, we'd like to hear any comments. If you think some of the information we're saying is incorrect, hey, we like to get everyone's opinion and comments. If we're wrong, hey, we'll say we're wrong and we'll correct the information. We would like for you to share your experiences if you had any experiences that we were talking about, especially with these platforms. If you've or vice versa, if you're a broker and you've had these issues and you know you're not too happy about it, please express that down with the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next episode. Again, this is George with HCM Integrity Service. We are a FMCSA and DOT compliance center, and we can help you with a lot of things that you need in order to run a safe and successful trucking company.
And this is Harold with Untouchable Insurance. We can help you with all your insurance needs. We have a lot of experience on dealing with different carriers. A lot of times you'll run into other agents that are just trying to sell you the policy. And you can be sold a cargo policy, but does that cargo policy really cover what you need? Or what does that cargo cover? Does it cover you properly? The only time you ever find out is when you actually have to make a claim. So keep me in mind, Harold with Untouchable Insurance.
That's right. All our information, if you need to get a hold of us, will be down in the comment section or in the down in the bio. So please just reach out and whatever you need, we're here to help.
Well, that's a big 10-4.